Welcome to Build Series. I'm Lee Blickley from HuffPost, and you may know him from Skins or perhaps a little show called Game of Thrones. Either way, Joe Dempsie is a force on screen, and he's currently starring in the season 2 of Epix' series Deep State. He plays Harry Clark, a secret agent who, after the events of season 1, is now in a war over clean energy. Let's take a look at a clip.
What are we gonna do?
We fix up the truck and keep going. We have to rendezvous with our guide and bore him.
We're not leaving him like this.
Okay. Is he religious?
I don't know.
When I come to the end of the road and the sun is set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me, and now let me go.
Let's welcome Joe Dempsie to stage. How are you?
Thank you very much.
That was an intense clip.
Yeah, you just got to see some peak Walton Goggins acting.
Tell me, because he is joining season 2 as a series regular after, I guess, Mark Strong left after season 1. So tell me about the dynamic now. What's going on with the show?
Well, I think it was a shame that Mark couldn't come back, but I think that what it actually enabled Matthew Parkhill, our showrunner, to do was kind of take the story in a slightly different direction. I think it's a much more of an ensemble piece this year, and he wrote this amazing character called Nathan Miller, and we got one of my favorite actors on the planet, Walton, to play him, which was and it's such a they're both such talented actors, and I've been so lucky throughout my career to get to work with people that I've admired for years beforehand, and so Mark was one of them, and Walton's another one, and but they're kind of like chalk and cheese. I don't know if it's like present company accepted. I don't know if it's like an American thing, but like Walton brings this like real intensity to the set, and it was kind of, and I think in order to switch things up for season 2, I think we kind of needed that a little bit. It was like throwing a little grenade in the mix, and having different actors around, having a different feeling. It added some kind of spice to it for me, and it was amazing having him around. So I just wanted him to like teach me everything about life, and he tried his best.
Yeah.
I've still got a lot to learn though, as you can probably
share
tell.
some crazy stories from his experiences on certain shows and movies you had seen?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I'm aware that he's a very well-known and well-respected television actor here in the States, but the shows that he's been on weren't really that big back home in the UK. So I knew that he was on The Shield. I knew that he was on Justified, but we never got a chance to watch them in the UK. The first time I ever saw Walton on screen was The Hateful Eight, and in amongst this sea of amazing, legendary actors, I was just like, who is that guy? And it sounds brilliant working with Quentin Tarantino. Like, of course it is. I think they have like celebratory drinks every time they wrap a day, let alone like wrap the film.
Hey, it sounds great. Hey, maybe one day you'll be in a Quentin Tarantino film. Goal?
Maybe. Well, no, I mean, do you know what? It's funny you should say that, because I think that there are so many amazingly talented directors out there, but for me, I think Tarantino was that. I was kind of peak. That was the prime age to like get into Tarantino when I was a teenager, and I think it was the first time that I remember watching Pulp Fiction, and it was the first time I really understood like the art of filmmaking, and about how I loved how measured everything was. Every shot was composed in a certain way, and I think as well Tarantino writes dialogue like no one else. I think he somehow manages to have create characters and he can write a scene that whether it's just two people shooting the breeze, but it somehow moves the story on. There's very little exposition. He doesn't feel like he's trying too hard. He would be my number one.
Oh, that'd be great. Because right now we see you on a lot of TV shows and on our TV screens. Is that something you want to do, though, is kind of explore the film world a bit eventually?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had the same philosophy, really, about the work that I chase. And I just want to do good stuff. The medium doesn't really concern me too much, whether it's TV or film or theatre or radio. You know, whatever it is, I just love good writing and want to work with great writers. And so, yeah, I guess TV's been the thing that's presented itself most often to me, and that's where I've found myself working for the most part. But yeah, I'd love to do some films.
Yeah, what was it about Deep State and the script that drew you in and made you want to sign on to be Harry Clark?
I think there were a number of factors, and the main one being, like I just said, for me, it always starts with the writing, and our writer Matthew Parkhill is such an intelligent man. There's a way that he constructs narrative, and I know that sometimes Deep State season 1 was almost too complicated. You know, I think that one of the things I liked about it was that I was reading it and going, well, you couldn't have this on in the background and scroll through Instagram on your phone at the same time. Like, if you missed like a few minutes of it, you're screwed. Yeah. So, and I like that because I mean I'm as guilty as anyone else of like double screening, you know, whatever. But I think things that demand your attention really stand out now. And so he managed to write this incredibly complex but compelling story. I dug the politics of it. You know, it was something that I kind of had an interest in, that link between big business and geopolitics and how the military-industrial complex is such a powerful thing. And so, yeah, I just wanted to be involved, I think. And MI6 as well, you know. Who doesn't want to play a spy?
A secret agent.
Exactly.
Yeah, what did you learn about the Deep State in general? Because you just kind of mentioned that you were into that, the part of the show. But I imagine it's very complicated to understand when you're trying to play someone in this world.
I mean, it sort of is and it isn't. When you're playing a character in this world, it's not actually that tough because they're discovering things at the same time as the audience are, you know. So you're just kind of, you know, you're learning with everyone else. So you don't have to dig too deep. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, once you look into the links between finance and politics, obviously it's incredibly murky waters. I think we all know that, and we're living in particularly febrile political times right now. And so I think that it's important that we do explore these things and that we help or try and understand them. Yeah. You know?
So where does the story take us? Because, you know, Mark Strong, of course, played your father on last season, but you're still a part of the show. So where is Harry at this point? I know you guys are in the Sahara somewhere, and shit gets real.
Shit does get real. And so, again, there's a slight quirk to how we've set up Deep State Season 2. So we, like with Season 1, we have a split timeline. We have two separate narrative strands kind of running in parallel. It sounds like it's going to be a nightmare to follow. It'll be fine, trust me. And so there's a present-day storyline, and that's 6 months after the end of Season 1, and we find Harry incredibly jaded after his experiences in Season 1. I think, you know, the message that his father, that Max gives him, is that, look, there's nothing you can do about this stuff. You know, it doesn't matter how much we expose, it doesn't matter how much we find out. You just have to cut a deal with these people. You can't win. And for someone who I think joined MI6 to fight the good fight and to feel like he was doing the right thing, it's pretty bleak sort of realization. So Harry retreats, and Harry sells out. He's doing private security for a boss that he hates, and he's living in this opulent gated villa in one of the poorest countries on earth. And he's just trying to hide away from everything. Things didn't work out with Layla either. And that's kind of the setup for the show, but things happen and he gets reeled back in. But there's running concurrently in order to explain that present-day storyline. We have a storyline that's set in the past, 6 months before Season 1 took place. And I think it's a really nice contrast because you get to see Harry as a new recruit, totally green, and ever the optimist. And you also get to see him meeting Layla for the first time, and it's nice to see those characters being a little more playful. You know, I think, excuse me, I think by definition, in a spy thriller, there's a lot of earnest acting that needs to happen. You know, these are quite intense situations, but they're very highly trained individuals, and so, you know, it can sometimes feel a little bit same. But the lovely thing about season 2 is that you get to see them a bit younger and a bit more carefree. And flirting, God forbid. There's not much of that happens in Deep State.
Yeah, was it nice for you to kind of play the origin story of Harry a little bit and give not only yourself but viewers that little more intel on who he is and who he was?
Yeah, and I think it allowed him to be a bit more. You could just see him a little more relaxed. You know, obviously with everything that we've seen him go through in season 1, and the present day storyline in season 2 it's like that times 100, really. You know, it's a pretty tough season for Harry. So I think it's just really interesting to see the optimism that he enters this profession with, and how quickly that seems to be squeezed out of him.
Yes, so it's kind of like season 1 in that, Max was kind of pulled back into it, and this season Harry.
Yeah, he's like becoming his father, like against every, trying to fight it with every fiber of his being. But yeah, he's basically becoming his dad. Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, I guess. and how was it for you though? Because you get to shoot in all these cool exotic locations, correct? So where did you get to go this season?
So this season was Cape Town and back to Morocco again. And yeah, there are worse places to be than Cape Town. It's one of the most beautiful cities.
Did you go shark diving?
Okay, so I didn't go shark diving. I was supposed to go shark diving, but then it was too windy or something on the day. But I did a skydive.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see some sharks while you were
I don't know if I should really be talking about it, because it was just my day off, and I'd never done a skydive before. I'd always talked about wanting to do one, but never made any effort to actually make that a reality. And then I was just like, right, I've got a day off. I'd rather skydive over Cape Town than over, like, London. Yeah. The weather's slightly nicer. So I went and did it. And then my ego was such that I couldn't not show off about it on Instagram. So I put the picture up. And obviously, we're not supposed to be skydiving during filming a TV show. Like, if I die, they're screwed. So the producer had words, and a letter went out to everyone in the production.
You shouldn't.
It was basically like, party's over, guys. Dempsey's ruined it for everybody.
Oh. But you're like, but tomorrow I had shark diving planned.
I literally had shark diving booked. Yeah, I thought I better not mention that in my apology to the producer for jumping out of a plane.
When you're in these, is it hard though when you're shooting in these locations to not just kind of be a tourist and get out there and?
Well, and that's specifically about South Africa. Like, it is such an incredible place, and the sheer number of things you can do. Like it's just, there's nature all around you. There's unbelievable wildlife. There's adrenaline sports. There's all this stuff that, I came back from South Africa with a longer to-do list than I actually went with. Yeah. And yeah, you feel like you should do everything that's on offer, because you're a tourist. Yeah. You're on holiday.
You get to do for some of your other shows too, namely Game of Thrones. You got to travel a little bit too, or were you more in Belfast?
Mostly Belfast.
Yeah. And how is it there?
It's like this all the time. I always used to say to people, this is sort of before I got to go to Iceland in season 7. People ask, "Oh, so whereabouts do you film Game of Thrones?" I'm like, "Do you watch it?" They go, "Yeah." They go, "Right, so there's like places that look really hot. That's Dubrovnik. Places that look really cold, that's Iceland. And all that grey drizzle in between, that's where I am the whole time. And that, my friends, is Belfast."
And then they bring you back after you were rowing that boat for so long.
Yeah.
Really long.
Yeah.
And you finally made it back to the show. And they place you in the coldest place ever, Iceland.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't be happy for too long on Game of Thrones. Yeah. They like to put you in your place. Mm-hmm. Well, I realise there's never a pleasant temperature on Game of Thrones. Yeah. You're either freezing cold or feel like you're about to melt. So yeah, but getting to come back was amazing, because although they told me at the end of season 3, when they said that Gendry was going to disappear for a while, I was under the impression that they were going to bring him back. That's what they'd said to me. But also, David and Dan, it's a fairly big undertaking, writing and directing the biggest TV show on the planet. So, if after a couple of years of me being gone, they turned around and said, look, we just don't have time. Yeah. I would have understood, man, and I would have just carried on watching as a fan. But
I think wasn't it so nice to see him back on the show? I mean, we were all wondering, where did you go?
Thanks very much. Yeah.
And you got to come back for one of my favorite episodes of all time, which was Beyond the Wall.
Beyond the Wall. I mean, have you ever seen a more weird bunch of men in your life than those?
They brought you back just to be like, we should just throw Gendry in there. Why not? Get him back.
That was it. So I was like, all right, amazing. I'm coming back. Right, what's the deal? What are the implications? What's the politics? They're like, season 7, we're just getting you back in there, mate. Off you go. And but filming that episode was, because we've been doing loads of interviews over the last week. It's been quite the week. And
you guys know Game of Thrones, right? I'm just
you heard of it,
cool,
right?
Yeah. Cool.
We've heard of it. Good.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of the questions because also I always feel for you guys whenever you have to interview anyone from Game of Thrones.
Why? It's amazing.
Because there's nothing you can say about
true,
about the new season that's coming up. But at least with season 8, because it's the final one, it can be a lot of the questions are a lot more kind of looking back. It's kind of asking us to reminisce about our favourite moments on the show, and filming that episode in Iceland was my highlight, I think, of Game of Thrones, because like I said, it was such an interesting and eccentric bunch of people. We were out in the Icelandic wilderness in the dead of winter, so there was only like 4 hours of daylight, I think, a day, which is great because it means you don't have to work for that long. 4 hours and then home. But the logistics of just filming out there are a sight to behold. I mean, we'd be filming halfway up a mountain in the middle of Iceland, and you'd still be getting offered biscuits every 20 minutes by someone. And yeah, it was just a really special, magical few weeks.
Well, you needed those biscuits too to fuel you, because you ran so fast.
You
rode so slow, but you ran so fast.
Someone once asked me, in the Game of Thrones Olympic team, is Gendry a runner or a rower? Yeah. I was like, he's not winning any medals for rowing. He's not breaking any world records. But no, because what would happen during that shoot in Iceland, what would happen is, day to day, we would spend the entire day, I say the entire day, 4 hours of daylight. We'd spend the entire day filming whichever walking, talking scene was on the cards for that day. And then everyone would rap, apart from me, and I would just have to run back the way we came, so they could put it all together at the end.
So how long did that take for them to splice that running sequence in?
I ran for a long time. It wasn't long enough for me, that sequence.
Cold. Was it literally cold when you were running?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was cold, and then you start running, and then you're boiling hot.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, never a pleasant temperature.
But that was nice. I mean, it was good to see you row. It was good to see you run. What are we going to see you do in season 8? I'm assuming that you're going to meet up with your old pal Arya.
Don't know. You just have to wait and see about that, really. But that's the cool thing about season 8 is that I think you could all tell towards the end of season 7 that that everyone's converging now on Westeros. So you're going to get some character meetups that you might not have seen before, and some ones that maybe you've been hoping for. And I think it's a really, really satisfying season opener. But I think Gendry is kind of, I think you saw at the end of season 7 when Davos comes and finds him in Flea Bottom. I think he's been waiting for some. He doesn't know what he's been waiting for, but I think having had his world opened up in that way and learning the truth about who he is, I think he feels like a desire to be part of something bigger. He wants purpose, basically. And so when Davos shows up, I think he's like, right, now this is what I've been waiting for. Signs up immediately to this ill-fated expedition. And so I think he still has that desire to be part of something bigger, but now he's seen what is coming from the other side of that wall. So although he knows that's what he has to be a part of, I still think he's terrified of it. And I think that's what a lot of characters are doing at the beginning of season 8. You know, we all know what's coming.
Well, it's nice, too, to have a Baratheon in the mix, because...
Yeah, it's been a while.
You're like the last one left.
Yeah, last Baratheon standing.
I still have hope for Gendry, right? Maybe he'll be
I
on the Iron Throne. You never know.
At the premiere the other night, I met Mark Addy for the first
your
time.
Dad.
Yeah, I was like, Pops, where you been?
Mark Daddy.
Yeah, I've got daddy issues now. You abandoned me.
That was cool, though. Mark was there and Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Was it cool to be at the premiere with everybody? It kind of came together for this last season to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, even during the filming of Game of Thrones, you can often be ships in the night. You know, the cast is so vast, and in seasons gone by, everyone's story has pretty much taken place within their own little crew. So although you might see people, you might bump into people in the hotels or whatever offset, you never really got to work with them. So it was rare even during the filming process to have everyone together in the same place. It felt amazing doing the read-through for season 8, just having all the present characters that were still around, sat around a table reading the season through. But to get, you know, some faces past them present, it was a really special night. It felt like a fitting end, I think.
I'm sure you all sat there, read the script, and just flipped through, right, to see where you died.
Do you know what? I didn't. I wanted to just like do it right. There is whenever we get our scripts, the front page is a cast list of which characters appear in that episode. So it's very tempting to just like read them, like, you know, episode 6. Do I survive? Do I make it? But it was a strange feeling finishing reading those scripts, because it felt like an MI6 agent. Actually, it felt like you
had to be one kind of for the past 2 years.
It felt like you were suddenly like in possession of this information and this secret and the end to this story that millions of people around the world wanted to know, and not quite trusting yourself with that information. I was like, I'm definitely going to be drunk between now and 2019. I don't trust myself to keep this in.
Well, that party, the after party the other night, I'm sure you were all there like, nobody's here, right? We could talk about what happened, because I'm sure you guys were having a few drinks.
Everyone was here. There was like 1,000 people at that after party.
I know.
And the music was very bizarre.
It was a cool vibe.
Really? I'm starting to question your taste now.
Oh, I wasn't there, but I see the pictures. The pictures,
Oh, you went? Oh, well, I'll explain.
I saw the episode. I was at the premiere, but I'm not cool enough to be invited to that after party.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought you were saying you were there.
I thought,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned it. There was a party afterwards. I apologize.
Now that the music wasn't good, I'm glad I wasn't
Well, yeah,
there.
you played this sort of like EDM version of the theme tune at one point, and then weirdly segued into Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You." It was a quite bizarre, eclectic mix. Yeah.
You sang karaoke, and the night ended on that note, right?
That's how every night ends for me.
But seriously, what did the show kind of... I'm sure it's given you a lot of opportunities. I mean, you have Deep State now. What has the Game of Thrones kind of opened doors for you, and what do you hope to do after it?
I mean, I think it's certainly opened doors in a professional sense, and I think it has for everyone that was involved in it. I'm quite glad that it's not had quite as profound an impact on my life as maybe it has for some of the others, some of the people whose faces carry this show more than mine. But I hope hopefully I'll be able to use it to carry on working with great writers and great directors. I don't have any. It's weird. People ask you, what do you want to do next? What would be your ideal role? And I find it really hard to answer, because I never know until I read it. I feel like I've got I feel like I know what I like script-wise now. I feel like, I mean, famous last words, I really shouldn't say this like when it's being recorded, but I feel like I've got a good eye for a good script, and so yeah, hopefully it just gets me a bit further up the pecking order for some of those roles that I want.
Yeah, and you're a good runner, so anyone who needs a good runner in their show, he's here.
Yeah, contractually obliged to run in everything.
Well, I do want to get to some audience questions. We have 2, so who's first?
Hi.
Hi. So how long did Gendry actually row for?
I mean, it depends. I mean, because I feel like he sort of entered his own space-time continuum during those 3 years. So time is just a concept, really. Who knows? I mean, I like to think that he was just rowing the entire time, and there was some weird sort of equivalent of castaway, whatever the medieval equivalent of a volleyball is. Yeah. He kind of had a friend like Wilson.
A little helmet, an armor helmet, just floating in the.
Well, that another question I've been asked quite a lot on this sort of press tour is, did you steal anything from set? And my answer is no, and I didn't take anything, but I really wanted that bull's head helmet that you see Gendry forging in season 1.
You didn't take anything?
No, I didn't. There wasn't really anything.
Call them up and be like, give me something.
But I didn't take the hammer, did I? No, I don't think they would have let me take that. Didn't really want to take that. Didn't want to see my costume ever again. Yeah. Sort of had the same costume for years. And then I also sort of thought, well, I was in the show. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a souvenir in itself. Yeah. And obviously I'm just going to watch my own bits back over and over again now the show finishes. Oh yeah, always do. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to know, how was it being a part of a production where you already knew cast members? Did you guys kind of have like inside jokes? Did you drive the crew crazy?
Are you referring to Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Oh, right, because of Skins.
Oh, Skins.
Because you knew Hannah Murray, right?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, it's been amazing sort of having Hannah on Game of Thrones as well, and this sort of, and how lucky we've both been to be part of these 2 TV shows that have somehow sort of broken through and done something a little bit different and a little bit special. And it's always nice to have a familiar face on Game of Thrones, because it can be quite an intimidating thing to work on. I think a lot of us cast members hadn't ever worked on something on a scale like that before, and that takes quite a bit of getting used to. So the more friendly faces, the better. I mean, season 8 was, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of characters converging now that haven't met before, and so there were quite a lot of filming days where there was a lot of cast in, which is rare for Game of Thrones. So it's often, you can't usually get a word in edgeways. There's a lot of big characters on that set. Liam Cunningham, Conleth Hill, Peter, obviously. Like there's I was quite quiet on those days, I have to say.
Just taking it all in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I couldn't keep up. They're too smart.
Well, it's awesome that you're on that show, and it's great to see you on a show like Deep State too, and you're going to keep going, and you get to explore different characters. So this month alone, Joe has 2 big shows coming out. So we have Game of Thrones on April 14th, and we have Deep State, I think, at the end of April.
24th, I want to say.
Yeah.
That might be entirely wrong.
But it's on Epics. It's on this month, though. I know we got that right. Yeah. But congrats on all the success, and thanks for being here. It's
Thanks
great to talk to you.
Thanks very much for having me. It's really nice to meet you all. Thank you.